This is the Thursday, January 15th, 2026 regular Glencoe Village Board meeting. I want to call the meeting to order, and let's have a roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Here.
Trustee Mealopoulos.
Here.
Trustee Underdunk. Here. Trustee Rosenblatt.
Here.
Trustee Rubin.
Here.
Trustee Scott.
Here.
And President Rowan.
Here. We are not live streaming this meeting tonight. We're working on the technology, but not yet. But the video recording will be available on the Village's YouTube channel. First item is the consideration of minutes. And I want to request, we've circulated the minutes. Everybody's had a chance to review them. The minutes are the regular board meeting on December 11th, 2025, closed session on July 17th, 2025, closed session on October 14th, 2025, closed session on November 20th, 2025, and I'm sorry, the second one, the first one was committee of the whole closed session, and the second one was closed session of the regular village board meeting on November 20. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes, or is there a motion to approve them? No comments. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. The minutes are approved. So I want to change, and you'll see why. I want to change the order and move up one item. And I want to move up to allow our Public Safety Director, Sean Loughran, to present a commendation award to Lieutenant Ryan McInerney. So, Public Safety Director Loughran, come on up.
That will be the button on the bottom right. Thank you very much, President Rowan, Village Manager Crowley, distinguished members of the board. Thank you. Thank you for moving this item up to the head of the beginning of today's meeting. This allows the opportunity for those individuals who are on shift, who are held over from day shift, and also those who are just starting their shift, to attend the meeting and then be able to share in observing Ryan receive the award and then be able to get back to work. So thank you very much for that. Ryan, of course, you may or may not know, is seated in the second row. I couldn't get him to sit in the front row. I don't know why. I tried very hard to get his family to move up and sit with him. Ryan smells wonderful. I don't know why they're sitting and choosing to sit all the way in the back. He does. When you come up, you'll get a whiff. So I always love telling stories like this. These are great stories to tell. It's important to tell these stories to the public. It's important that you hear these stories. I also strongly encourage, and I'm greatly, very, very pleased that he brought his family. Ryan is joined by his parents, his wife, and his daughter. Family members attending circumstances like this are very important. There's a picture of my own family joining me at a ceremony. It's very near and dear to me that my family could participate in that. And it's important that families see and hear these stories as well, because unfortunately what they see so much and hear so much in the news is largely negative. So, since the tragic attacks in October of 2023, the Village, Public Safety Department, and all religious institutions have collaboratively reimagined the planning and implementation of security infrastructure for large-scale events. As a direct result of this, constant communication takes place before, during, and after all large-scale events with the purpose of increasing comfort levels and continuously improving on the model. This collaborative effort has resulted in a more resilient and safer community, aligning with the Village's strategic plan. On October 7th, 2025, Lieutenant Ryan McInerney was working a high holidays security detail with Public Safety Department members and private security at the North Shore Congregation Israel on Sheridan Road. Both internal and external security considerations were planned in detail, with attention paid to the access routes of both the grounds and physical structure at the briefing. Already on high alert because of the 2-year anniversary of the attacks in Israel, an additional attack had just taken place overnight in Israel, resulting in several fatalities. Concerns were understandably very high. During the detail, and with all of this in mind, Lieutenant McInerney noticed a suspicious vehicle enter through the posted exit and then back into a parking spot along the trees. Further, its 2 occupants remained in the car and appeared to be placing the parking lot under surveillance. Lieutenant McInerney investigated, and the check revealed both occupants were associated with a recent burglary activity in a nearby village. While interviewing the subjects, another person approached and offered that he was meeting the two, claiming they would be his guests at Temple. As their initial account could not be refuted, the three were sent on their way. But Lieutenant McInerney would not be deterred because something was definitely amiss. He then made contact with another person on the ground shortly thereafter, and after a conversation with that individual, immediately disproved the initial account that they told him. He approached and re-interviewed one of the subjects. That individual was found to be in possession of a loaded firearm and a large quantity of narcotics. The subject was arrested by Lieutenant McInerney and support units without incident and relocated to the station. In an attempt to determine what threat the subject posed to the synagogue, which was front of mind, he was interviewed at length. After further investigation at the station, the arrestee ultimately admitted to a crippling narcotics habit, causing the loss of his job. To support himself, it appeared he was recklessly selling narcotics on that date in the parking lot. He had arranged to meet these individuals on synagogue property to sell them just before Temple. And he was armed with a firearm at that time. In consideration of all these facts, the offender was charged appropriately with several felony narcotics and weapons charges. Due to the keen observational skills of the nominee, the safety of congregants could be assured. An offender was apprehended and a loaded pistol was removed from the streets of Glencoe. For those actions those day, Lieutenant Ryan McInerney is being recognized with a department commendation. Ryan? Come on, you're not going to escape it. All of you. This is the best part of it.
His dad was a lifelong
Everybody please pay attention. He's also new.
He was very good friends with Carrie Lewandowski. They served together on major crimes task force.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Director Chief Loughran, and congratulations, Lieutenant McInerney. We have the best public safety department. I get that maybe that's too limiting. We have the best police, we have the best fire, we have the best paramedics, and we are so grateful for you guys keeping us safe. Keep it up. Okay, the next portion, and thank you for coming, and you don't have to stick around for the rest of this stuff. We put it first so you're welcome, but you don't have to. The next portion of the meeting is public comment. This portion allows for members of the public to address the village board on a topic that's within the purview and jurisdiction of the village board, but is not in another location on the agenda. If you'd like to speak about a matter that is listed on the agenda, we'll ask that you wait until that agenda item is called, and we'll give you an opportunity to speak then. If your matter is on the consent agenda, please let us know. If you'd like to talk about it, we'll remove it from the consent agenda so you can talk about it. Anyone who wants to speak should fill out a written speaker form, which is located at the back of the boardroom, and give it to the village manager. The public comment time is intended as an opportunity for you to make comments to the village board. We'll listen to everything you say, but this will not ordinarily be a time for discussion or engagement by us. If appropriate, we may direct the village manager or other village staff to respond to questions or issues raised at a later date. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes, and to be fair to all, we're going to strictly enforce this rule. Per our established policy, we're going to limit all public comment to a total of 30 minutes. We ask that all speakers be respectful, civil, and non-repetitive, and we ask that all members of the audience refrain from applauding or making any other comments during or after any speaker. With those guidelines, are there any public comments on non-agenda items? All right, I've looked around the room, and I haven't seen any, so I'm going to close our public comment time for non-agenda items. The next item on our agenda is reports of committees. The first committee is the Committee of the Whole. We just had our committee of the whole meeting, and we talked about two things. We had a continued discussion about the Uptown Glencoe streetscape and parking study, talking about what we can do to improve parking in the streetscape. We had a presentation by our Public Works Director, our Development Services Director, and by our consultant, Teska. In addition, we talked briefly about our current outdoor dining policies and whether we wanted to make changes and how we thought about that. That covers the Committee of the Whole meeting. The next report of committee is the Finance Committee, and I'll ask the Chair of the Finance Committee, Trustee Rubin, to report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our committee met just this past Tuesday, and the committee discussed the monthly financial reports for the month of December. Our general fund revenue performance for 3 of the village's revenue sources exceeded both our monthly budgeted targets and prior year receipts, including building permits, personal property replacement taxes, and sewer charges. And we discussed the fact that $450,000 of the excess net permit revenue was transferred to the Capital Projects Fund to finance future capital projects. That was, because of the redevelopment that we have going on, we decided that we had previously talked about the fact that we would use a chunk of that extra permit money that's not going to be repeated anytime soon and set it aside for future capital projects, net of the costs associated with those permits. We also discussed that, as people probably know, property tax receipts for the second installment continue to be delayed, and the village only received 2 disbursements at the very end of December, bringing collections to about 81% for the year as to what our versus what our levy was. The committee discussed that the cash was transferred to the general fund, from the general fund, to the pension funds to cover the annual required contributions, since the property taxes weren't received in time to make the payments. Net, it's cost us at least $20,000 in lost revenue, interest and such, because of the fact we aren't getting our collections in a timely manner from the county. And they're still behind about $2.4 million in terms of what we expect to collect going forward. The committee also discussed the proposed timeline to issue general obligation bonds in 2026 in accordance with our approved calendar year 2026 budget and the village's 10-year community investment program financing plan. On tonight's agenda, there's a reimbursement resolution that will allow the village to reimburse ourselves from bond proceeds for any capital expenditures that are incurred from 60 days ago through the date of the receipt of the bond proceeds. This will allow our capital projects to begin earlier this year, as well as to allow the village to be more flexible in the timing of the bond issuance based on market conditions. Lastly, the Finance Committee also discussed the calendar year 2025 audit, which is kicking off this month with preliminary field work. Final field work will take place in February, March, and the final audit report is expected to be presented to the village board in June. Thank you.
Thanks for that report. Let me mention, Trustee Rubin pointed out that because of the delay in getting money to which we're entitled for our property taxes, it's cost us about $20,000. The Finance Committee and then the whole village board establishes goals for balances that we want to have in our funds, which are in excess of what we immediately need. Because we have maintained those balances, we are able to weather what could be in other places, if they don't have balances, a financial disaster. If we had not maintained the balances in our funds, we would have had, in order to make payroll and pay for stuff, we would have had to borrow money at great expense. So I want our residents to know that we maintain these balances because we know that the rainy day might happen and we're ready for it. and we've saved ourselves a boatload of money as a result. And that's because of the Finance Committee and then the Village Board insisting that we maintain those balances. With that, the next report is the Plan Commission, and Trustee Mihalopoulos is our representative on that. Georgia.
Thank you, President Rowan. The Plan Commission did not meet in December. However, on January 28th, the Plan Commission will review an exterior appearance application for the Glencoe Public Library project and for a renovated facade for a new sushi restaurant at 317 Park Avenue. The Commission will also continue its discussion of the creation of our planned unit development ordinance. Thank you.
Thanks for that report. The next report is the Golf Advisory Committee. Our representative on that is Trustee Hallwax.
Thank you. Recap from December. The golf club ended 2025 5,700 rounds over budget. Staff's grateful to all the dedicated and loyal golfers who endured the temporary amenities and construction to play their favorite course. The estimated unaudited net operating income is $242,000, and a great success considering the challenges of the season and all the construction that was going on. Friends of the Glencoe Golf Club had a very successful year, raising $192,000 in gifts and pledges, and wants to publicly thank all that have supported the new community project. The next Golf Advisory meeting is on January 26th.
Thanks for that report. The next report is the Sustainability Task Force, and Trustee Rosenblatt is our representative on that.
Thank you, President Rowan. Unfortunately, the task force did not meet since our last board meeting, so there's nothing to report except that our next meeting will be on January 27th.
Okay, thanks. The next report is the Council for Inclusion and Community, and Trustee Scott is our representative on that.
Thank you, President Rowan. Although a quorum was not present at the January 5th meeting, the Glencoe Council for Inclusion and Community convened to discuss operational updates and upcoming community initiatives. Council members shared feedback on 2 recent events supported by the GCIC, Light the Lights and Stuff the Squad, highlighting their positive impact and community participation. The council also discussed opportunities to engage the community in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, including the commemoration and worship celebration at St. Paul AME. That's on Sunday, January 18th, 10 a.m., and the day of service at the Volunteer Center on Monday, January 19th. That goes on all day. In addition, the council continued conversations with Glencoe Family Service about developing a speaker series focused on fostering inclusion and creating a sense of belonging within the community. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Glencoe Council for Inclusion and Community will take place on Monday, February 2nd.
Thanks for that report. The next 2 reports are the Preservation Commission and the Tree Commission. Trustee Onderdunk is our representatives on that, so I'll ask him to make those 2 reports.
Thank you. At the January 6th Preservation Commission meeting, the Commission discussed potential landmark application for 530 Longwood Avenue. The Commissioners shared information with the property owner regarding the State of Illinois Property Tax Freeze Program and the criteria needed to participate in the program. The Commissioners also discussed zoning incentives related to historic preservation and recapped the recent action taken by the Zoning Commission regarding increases in incentives for certified and honorary landmarks. The Commissioners also discussed the next steps regarding an additional presentation to the Village Board to discuss financial incentives and the general village code requirements. An advisory review of the construction documents for the renovation of the honorary landmark Ravine Bluffs College, managed by the Historical Society, raised no objections. The project includes both interior and exterior improvements. Finally, additional discussion items included planning for a preservation lecture series in partnership with the library as well as reviews of recent demolition permits for 670 Longwood and honorary landmark, the demolition of 437 Jefferson Avenue and 488 Park Avenue. The next preservation meeting is scheduled for February 3rd. With respect to the Tree Commission, they meet every other month. They did not meet. They do not meet in January. They will be meeting on February 9th. And want to remind us, since it is the Tree Commission, put out your Christmas trees. Yeah, I think you have until the end of the month for collection on Wednesdays. Other than that, Happy New Year.
Thanks for that report. We have a lovely fake tree, and I'm keeping it. And it's still up, although my wife insists we need to take it down. But I like it. Okay, that concludes the reports of committees. The next item on the agenda is reports of officers, and the first reports are from our village manager. So, Village Manager Crowley, your turn.
Thank you, President Rowan. Before I start, I think it warrants some mention that it's wonderful to be back in this room again after what has been a lengthy sabbatical to another location. It has been a long and important road that we are grateful that we're back here, that we can actually just walk upstairs and be ready for these meetings. We'll work out some of the kinks of the space. This is literally our first time using the room, and it is, but I would say just a real testament to the hard work of a lot of the folks who are sitting in this room tonight. I just want to make mention of the fact that Adam Hall and Chris Callwaite in particular are responsible for this space coming together in the way that it is. But there's a lot of others who have also supported that effort. Sammy Hansel, our IT team, Don Kirk from Public Works, Nikki Larson, just a lot of folks who have been engaged in recreating this space. And we'll talk more about it in the future. But this is the first major renovation of the council chambers in about 35 years. And it came about as a function of needing to renovate our public safety living quarters, which are on the other side of the second floor. When we moved out of this room, they moved in for about a year. There were temporary walls built, and this became a bunk space for our officers. And when that side of the building was finally completed, they moved back, and then we started the work in here. So it is a pleasure to be back, and I think it's a space that we certainly can be proud of. It has a lot of value and a lot of meaning to the community overall, but it's also a very functional space, and it's an important one for emergency operations, and obviously for the most important function, which is the governance of the community. So I just wanted to mention how exciting it is to be back here before I jump into the other items that I have in my report this evening. So first of all, we have our fourth quarter reports, which were included. The trustees have them at their places, but they were also included in this evening's agenda packet and posted last Friday. I wanted to just take a moment to highlight a few things in the report. This does focus on how we're managing finances, maintaining our services, and moving forward on our long-term priorities. So I'm going to just point to a few items throughout this report, focusing first in the Administration and Finance Department report. The board, as this group is well aware of, approved the 2026 budget earlier than usual. This helps our staff team plan and manage costs more effectively. Financially, we remain on solid footing. About 81% of the 2025 property tax levy has been collected. Unfortunately, it should be 100%, but we've, as has been reported already by Trustee Rubin and President Rowan, on solid footing because of the prudent financial management of the village board. The board also acted to gradually reduce reliance on property taxes by adopting new food and beverage and home rule sales taxes, which seek to shift more costs to visitors and non-residents. Development and development services. Development activity remained steady this quarter. The village issued 222 permits, generating nearly $471,000 in permit revenue, consistent with last year. Staff also continued work on updating the building code, with completion expected in 2026, and began longer-term zoning code updates while advancing the streetscape and parking study, which we discussed earlier this evening. Public Works focused heavily on reliability and winter operations. A new water leak detection program identified 6 leaks early, helping prevent emergency main breaks and reducing disruptions. Crews also responded to 10 snow and ice events, much earlier than usual, I would note, totaling 29 inches of snow. I think that was more snow than we've had in all of the last 3 seasons put together, and all of it fell in November and early December. They also, though, continued to move forward on all of the infrastructure work that was underway in the village. The golf course. The golf club performance, as has been noted, continued to exceed expectations. Amazing that a course with a clubhouse under construction was still able to hit over 40,000 rounds. It's amazing. It is unique among public courses and just underscores what a special place it is. That clubhouse construction is continuing to progress, and I was out there today. It's looking spectacular. Public safety maintained high service levels as always this quarter, responding to more than 5,500 police calls during the course of the year and over 500 fire and EMS calls. The department during the course of 2025 logged 2,000 hours of training and expanded our programming like online house watch requests while continuing our partnerships focused on mental health response and community support. And just last but not least, the strategic plan is about a third of the way complete, both in the number of years that we're into this 3-year plan. We are 1 year in, but we have completed about 37% of the goals and initiatives in that particular plan. So that's a real good start for us. And I'm just grateful for the work that our staff team continues to do on a daily basis in service to the community. This report is a good way to try to encapsulate that work a bit, but it certainly does not tell the full story of all of the operations that are take place every day. But again, great work to our staff team, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone had any as they peruse the report. Okay, if not, I have a couple more things to roll through. The next item is a acknowledgement of some really fantastic employees, those that I was just referring to, but this will be a little bit more specific. This is our Glencoe Award, Glencoe. I won't tell you what all of those letters stand for because I don't remember and I didn't write them down, but they are all good things. I'll start with that. In 2025, our Human Resources team launched the Employee Recognition Award Program to celebrate employees who go above and beyond in living out the village's core values. These awards give supervisors and peers the opportunity to recognize exceptional work in real time, highlighting the everyday efforts that make a real difference in our organization and our community. And on a quarterly basis, I get to talk about them in this meeting. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about our last quarter's worth of award recipients. The first was unable to be here this evening, but it's Public Safety Officer Ben Tholotowski, who has consistently shown a positive attitude and proactive approach to his work. Although Ben is relatively new with us, he's been here less than a year. Having joined us as a lateral hire, he has made a lasting impression on both his colleagues, on department supervisors, and all of us in the village. He's known for going above and beyond for residents and for handling investigations thoroughly, thoughtfully, and with great care. His professionalism and dedication are exactly what this award is meant to celebrate. So thank you, Ben. I'm sorry you could not be here this evening, but our next recipient is here, and I'm going to ask him to come up if he would, Chris Callwaite, who's sitting out there. Chris, I am especially proud to recognize, is our facilities manager. As I mentioned a moment ago, a lot of the reasons this building is still standing is because Chris joined our team about 3 years ago and literally has learned it like the back of his hand. So this is what was presented in the award nomination. So I'm going to read through that. But I have a couple things I'll add to it at the end, too. Chris is being recognized for his approachable leadership style, adaptability, and strong understanding of employee needs. Over the past year, Chris has played a key role in leading several major facilities-related projects, including the second floor renovation, which I was just speaking about, the conversion of the community service officer office space, the redesign of office spaces in the Public Works garage, and the Public Works kitchen renovation, and most recently, the reorganization of staffing space within Public Works and Development Services Administration area. Throughout all this work, Chris has consistently demonstrated a thoughtful balance, taking the time to understand employee needs while also keeping projects on schedule and fiscally responsible. So a couple of things to add to that list of things is Chris is uniquely good at predicting the nitpicky things that I am going to find when I see stuff. And the staff generally will roll their eyes when I walk into a room because I find the thing that everyone's hoping I'm not going to see. And the funny thing is I find a lot fewer of those things since Chris has been on our team, because Chris is one of the most detail-oriented individuals I've ever met. I think it would be hard for me to quantify the difference pre-Chris versus today in the way that this building operates, in the way that our staff is served. They're more comfortable, they're more capable, they have the spaces that they need to feel like they can do their jobs every day. And that's because Chris is looking out for them, whether that's public safety, public works, or anyone in our administrative offices. Chris is there. He wanted to be here this evening, not just because we were going to present this award, but because we're in this space. And he wanted to make sure that the lights worked and everything was functional and clean and perfect. And again, he doesn't roll his eyes when I walk in the room and say, hey, could we move the chairs just a little bit so that they're all aligned in this way? And can you make sure that we have the right finials on the flagpoles and all of the, and it's always absolutely, I can't wait to do that. And he's got a great vision for ensuring that we care for this space. And I say this space being the buildings that the village owns, operates, and relies upon to be functional for our employees to be able to do the work that they do in service to our community. So Chris, so glad you are on our team. I'm going to come down and bring this Glencoe Award. And I think you have somebody who joined you this evening, and I'm going to be embarrassed to say that I don't know her name, but maybe you can tell us and introduce her when I come down.
Phil, before you leave, do we need an expanded picture?
I'm happy to. Okay. Yeah, there we go. All right, here we go.
It's because he's here working.
He was cute.
He can fix things.
Forgot what it's like to walk around in this room. It's awesome. All right. Well, thank you again, Chris. And I'm so glad you were able to be here tonight because it's nice to do that in person. Okay, my last point, but certainly not least, is a brief update on train horns. So, as I think we all know, over the past 6 or so months, our community's been subjected to an abundance of excessive train horn use. We know how disruptive this has been to our community, and our staff has been working diligently with our counterparts at Metra, at the Union Pacific Railroad, at the Illinois Commerce Commission, and the Federal Rail Administration to both understand the cause and work toward a lasting solution to this issue. The increase in horn usage was due to the required deployment of several of the features of federally mandated positive train control systems, or PTC, along with confusion over and difficulty in applying the historical regulations that have governed the use of train horns in Glencoe for decades. I am very pleased to report tonight that we have received word from the Federal Rail Administration this week that the village's historical quiet zones are valid and in place and are to be adhered to. This is very important because it was the critical piece in the puzzle to get our friends at the Union Pacific to update their systems, to eliminate the use of those automated train horns. And we have received confirmation from the Union Pacific that they are updating their systems, and they will ensure that the horns are used only for emergencies or during construction, not during regular operations. We've been advised that these system updates should be completed by next Friday, January 23rd, and that all horns for regular operations would cease by that date. Certainly there are still a few. We've heard them today, and thankfully one is not happening as I'm saying this right now, but I am very grateful that the word finally came through the Federal Rail Administration. This was a delayed response, due in large part to a backlog of information from the federal government shutdown last fall, and them finally getting through that backlog. This really has been a team sport, trying to wrangle, admittedly, one of the most bureaucratically complicated issues I've ever encountered in my quarter of a century in local government. And again, we recognize how disruptive this has been to our residents and our business community. Very grateful to the FRA and particularly the staff at the FRA who kept with it and continued to keep us up to date and up to speed. But I would be really remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank Assistant Manager Adam Hall for everything that he did, keeping on this, the regular emails, the phone calls, the back and forths, and also to our attorney, Stu Weiss, who was on the phone with Omaha and all sorts of places trying to get some answers and to figure this out. When I've had conversations with residents about what's going on, I said, I really can't even explain it to you because it's that weirdly complicated, and I'm just grateful that we're at this point where the relentlessness of the staff paid off. So we are thrilled and excited to be able to report that tonight, and with that, I will conclude my report unless there are any questions.
Thanks for that report. Before I get to my report, the village president's report, which is next, let me say, again, I have a few pen pals in the village who've been concerned about the train horns, and they've been leaning on me. So I particularly want to thank Adam and Stu and the woman from the Federal Railroad Administration. We're not, these days, the federal government is not necessarily our friend, but the Federal Railroad Administration was our friend, and so thank you. The village president's report, the item on the agenda is consideration of a proclamation declaring February 2026 as Black History Month in the village of Glencoe. The proclamation has been published online, circulated to the board. Unless there are questions, is there a motion to approve the proclamation?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. The proclamation is approved. Let me mention a couple of other things. Village manager talked about the fact that we are back in our council chambers, which I am grateful for, and the village board is grateful for. Thank you, Chris, for making sure this happened and it looks the way it looks. I do want to say, I said this at our last meeting when we were at the Park District, but I want to reiterate how grateful we are to the Park District for taking us in when we were booted out of here. And we, we're all from Glencoe, and we appreciate the camaraderie that the Park District showed. One other thing. Earlier this evening, we saw an example of how terrific our public safety officers are. There are a lot of those examples. I just want to say it's not just our public safety officers. It turns out their families, and I want to congratulate Chief Loughran on his sons recently earning Eagle Scout, which is a huge, huge accomplishment. I know Finn did it himself, but, Chief Loughran is really good at running organizations, and I'm sure he helped in some minor way. So congratulations. With that concludes my report. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes items that have been published online for the community. They've been reviewed by the board members individually or perhaps together as part of our committee of the whole process. We don't think they warrant further discussion, but if anyone has any questions, they could raise it. If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which has there's a series of listed items? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been my throat. It's been moved and seconded. I think we need a roll call for this, so Village Manager Crowley.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Mealopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee Onderdunk.
Yes.
Trustee Rosenblatt.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
The consent agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is regular business, and that is consideration of a resolution referring a proposed zoning code amendment regarding non-residential uses in residential zoning districts to the Zoning Commission for a public hearing and recommendation. And I will ask Taylor Baxter, who's our Development Services Director, to present on that. Taylor.
There you go.
There we go. This is the first step in a three-step process for a proposed amendment to the zoning code. This has been a staff-initiated proposal. There's no applicant on this proposed amendment. This really comes out of recent changes to state law, and staff's concerned that these changes may limit the village's ability to mitigate the impacts of non-residential uses within residential zoning districts. As of right now, some non-residential uses are allowed in residential zoning districts by right, and by right I mean without the review of a variation or a special use permit. If there is a lot that is at least 200% of the minimum lot size in a residential zoning district, these uses can locate on those lots without going through those processes, without getting any special approval by the village board. Those uses include places of worship, parks, schools, including preschools, and golf clubs. Throughout the years, the village has maintained some level of control over the placement of these uses through our off-street parking requirements. Nearly all uses in the village, not all of them, but nearly all of them, do have off-street parking requirements, which are spelled out in the zoning code. A few of those are in your staff memo, the specifics of these specific non-residential uses. However, late last year, the state passed a new law which has been signed by the governor and goes into effect on June 1st of 2026, which will eliminate the village's ability to enforce off-street parking minimums within a half mile of a transit station, which covers a large chunk of the village. So within that radius, from both the Hubbard Woods station, the Glencoe station, and the southernmost station in Highland Park, the village will no longer be able to enforce any off-street parking requirements. And so the concern is that this is going to really limit the village's ability to guide development and to mitigate impacts from traffic, parking, drop-off, circulation, things like that for those uses. There are also uses that require special use permit. A special use permit process is a public hearing with the zoning commission and then a final decision being made by the village board. The special use permit process is designed to help mitigate impacts of new uses on surrounding areas. This could potentially help the village retain control over things like site planning, traffic, parking, etc. And while it would not prohibit those uses from locating or expanding in those residential districts, it would require a public hearing. So it would give an opportunity for additional public input and especially opportunities for the village board, while still allowing for those uses to be located in those districts, to apply conditions of approval, maybe potentially for site design, circulation, lighting, signage, and so on, as well as parking, to help mitigate those impacts on neighboring communities. As a review of the zoning code amendment process, we're in step 1 here, an initial village board review. You can either deny this outright this evening, or you can refer it to the zoning commission for a public hearing. After that public hearing, the zoning commission makes a recommendation, at which point it returns to the village board for a final decision. So next steps, there is a resolution in your packet. The resolution spells out the rationale for starting this process. You would move to adopt the attached resolution, referring this to the zoning commission. You can also include additional direction to the zoning commission as you determine to be appropriate, anything else that you might want them to consider as part of their public hearing. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
So we love our state legislature, but Glencoe's a tiny place, and a whole, most of Glencoe is covered by this new state law, including a lot of our residential districts. So we have to think about how to respond appropriately. This seems to me, this is the first step. The way this works is we would refer it to the zoning commission. They'd have a hearing, they would talk about it, they would send it back to us, and then we could do something. It seems to me a no-brainer to follow staff's advice and refer this to the zoning commission. At this point, I don't have anything more I want to say or any specific guidelines for the zoning commission. Anybody else have any different thoughts? And if not, is there a motion to approve the resolution and send it to the zoning commission?
So moved.
Let's have a roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Mealopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee Underdunk.
Yes.
Trustee Rosenblatt.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries, and so therefore we're going to send this to the zoning commission and wait for their advice.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. So that concludes our regular business tonight. Is there any other business that anyone wants to raise? If not, is there a motion to move to closed session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Section 2C21, which is review of closed session minutes, always a barn burner, and 2C11, which is probable or imminent litigation? Is there a motion to go into closed session for those items?
So moved.
I'll second.
I think we need a roll call for this.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Mealopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee Underdunk.
Yes.
Trustee Rosenblatt.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
The motion carries, so we're going to decamp